Well, good morning, friends. This is Ash here at WAT News with some news and election updates. I was watching the hearings late into the night last night. I made it till, 2:30. And I started to realize way before that what was going on, in my opinion, and what the scam was, right? So what went down, right? A bunch of people showed up to the Capitol building. Some of those people were violent. Now the question is going to be in the end, were all those people just Trump supporters, or were there some other people interspersed in with those people, right? Who were maybe allowed in. Maybe the security wasn't as good as it should have been, right? Because I was making that point in one of my videos yesterday, and I lost track of if I actually said that in a video or if I put that video out or not. But what my point was yesterday was when Trump made his speech, he said we're going to walk over to the Capitol building and, we're going to support our people, right? So it seemed like his thing was, hey, we're going to walk over there and we're going to stand around and we're just going to make our presence known, but we're not going to actually force our way inside, right? But somebody decided that they were going to force their way inside. I have some video here, and I'm going to get into it in a second. But it turned out in the end, basically what these people wanted on the Democrat side, that's what happened, right? Every time the objection would come up, and one side would say the reason I'm objecting is because the state of Pennsylvania did not change their voting law, right, without going through the legislature, which is the rule. And the other side would just say, no, this is, this went through and this is how it is. And so it was just one side saying that over and over and over, and they just wore everybody out with hour after hour of that bullshit with 5 minutes and then 5 minutes and then 5 minutes. And they're both sides are saying the same thing. And that's it, right? Now the question's going to be, who was the guy, right, that everyone was looking at, which was the dude with the horns, right, which I highlighted in one of my videos. So let's watch this video real quick, because now they're saying that the shirtless man in the horned helmet at the Capitol protest was identified as a QAnon backer. So as soon as I saw this ad in the New York Post, I figured out, and I knew this yesterday pretty much, that was going to be this was going to be what the thing was, right? If somebody wasn't part of Trump's team, in other words, if they're not a real Trump supporter and they're a paid person that's paid to go in and do this, right? Well, somebody got killed because of that, right? So now if you committed violent acts and you snuck into a group and you're not really part of that group, and I'm not saying that this guy is or is not, I don't know who he is yet, but as soon as they said he's a QAnon backer, that perked up my ears, right? Because we've seen in the past that some people have been put forward who've done certain things, and if they're a plant or not, we don't know, but they kept saying that these people follow QAnon. These are the QAnon conspiracy theorists, and they're violent, right? But all the evidence we've seen is the opposite of that. Most of the violence is being done by groups like Antifa and stuff like that. But Antifa was so outnumbered at this thing that they couldn't come out. So what did they do, right? Well, maybe they put some people in undercover. I don't know that yet, but that's what my gut's telling me. So this is the horn guy in the hallway. Doesn't look like the cops. There's too much going on. So he's got the flag, right? But he has no other Trump gear. He has nothing that says he's Trump. And he just has this flag and his bullhorn. And I noticed that these guys have hats, right? But I don't know, something don't smell right. And I'm not saying that these people are maybe not supporters of Trump. I don't know that, but I'm saying that something don't smell right to me. Why is this guy being allowed to walk free around in the Capitol this way, right? He's not being harassed in any way. Why was he allowed to go inside the Capitol chamber, right, and get on in the chair and take pictures, right? Was this a stunt? That's my point. Was this a stunt? And who is this freaking guy? And who are some of the people that got arrested? Is it gonna turn out that they're related somehow to Antifa? We have to see how that plays out. The heavily painted man wearing a horned fur hat who made a spectacle of himself on the dais of the U.S. Senate during the storming of the Capitol has been identified as a QAnon supporter and fixture at far-right rallies, according to a report. Jake Angeli, 32, was seen posing in the chair occupied moments earlier by Vice President Pence. The shirtless conspiracy theorist known as the Q Shaman wore red, white, and blue face paint as he brandished a spear from which hung an American flag. In 2020, Angeli told the Arizona Republic that he wears the headgear and paint to attract attention as he talks about QAnon, which claims that a vast network of powerful people, blah, blah, blah. You know the story. So we'll have to see how it plays out, guys. I think that that's what they did, because I saw this other article here that made me also think that, which is D.C. mayor told federal law enforcement to stand down day before violent U.S. Capitol. This is coming out of Federalist. Jordan Davidson. Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser told federal law enforcement to stand down just one day before a mob of Trump supporters breached the U.S. Capitol on Wednesday, smashing windows, entering the chambers, and forcing lawmakers and congressional staff inside into the lockdown. To be clear, the District of Columbia is not requesting other federal law enforcement personnel and discourages any additional deployment without immediate notification to and consultation with MPD. If such plans are underway, Bowser wrote in a letter to Acting U.S. Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen, Acting Secretary of Defense Chris Miller, and Secretary of the Army Ryan D. McCarthy. I also had read something yesterday that someone in the SecDef's department was actually not communicating with Trump at that point when all this stuff was going on, and they were actually communicating with like Biden's team and Pence or something. So if that's true, that's like a whole other ballgame, right? And you noticed in this hearings also that people were saying on the Democrat side that Trump is dangerous and he still has 2 weeks left and he could do a lot of damage to us. So I'm not sure where we are right now, because you've basically exhausted this particular legal challenge, and you showed everybody that 60 different courts, none of them would take your case. Why is that? Why wouldn't any of them even allow any evidence to be shown in these cases, right? Are these courts on the up and up, or are they doing something that they're really not supposed to be doing, right? That's the question I have in my mind. So here's an article out of Gateway. Exclusive evidence reveals some individuals in the Capitol today weren't Trump supporters. This is by Joe Hoft. Who are these people inside the Capitol today? It is likely that they weren't all Trump supporters. In fact, some of them may have been there to paint President Trump and his followers as violent, which they aren't. We reported in a prior post that a retired FBI agent reported that Antifa was at today's event in D.C. The Washington Times reports that at least one person in the Capitol was related to Antifa, as confirmed by facial recognition from our friends at XRV Vision. One individual in the Capitol was spotted at a BLM event this summer, but he was reportedly holding a QAnon poster. Was he QAnon related or BLM related or something else? We don't know. This guy was sitting in the speaker's chair this afternoon. Per our earlier reporting, he wasn't wearing a shirt, despite it being nearly freezing out. And if he's from Arizona, he'd be cold. Trust that. I got friends from Arizona. They can't come back here. They go crazy, man. They come here, and it's even in the 40s. They get freezing cold. Others reported that Baked Alaska and Nick Fuentes were in the speaker's office. Was Baked Alaska there? Baked Alaska was a Trump supporter in 2016, but then he turned on Trump. He somehow found himself in the speaker's office in the Capitol today with controversial activist Nick Fuentes. There were a number of characters in the Capitol today. At least one individual in the Capitol had a communist tattoo on his hand. Not something a Trump supporter would likely have. So yeah, this is the dude that's pictured right here in the New York Post article with him, right in the hallway. This dude with the communist sickle in his hand. How could you go to a Trump rally walking around with that? You'd have some issues, right? There he is in the picture right here, and he's showing his hands, right? See him? Showing his hands right there. So I'm starting to think, and I was thinking this late last night, that this whole thing was a setup, because then every speech that you saw inside the chamber, what were they saying? Terrorists came and attacked, right? And this hallowed hall and all this stuff. But people got killed because of this. So if you have people that you sent, right, from Antifa, let's say, and I'm not saying that happened, but it's alleged that it did now, and you caused people to get killed, that's a crime, right? And I'm going to show you this video in a second where it appears that somebody's trying to break the windows outside of the Capitol building when people were outside, and then they're saying that he was Antifa. So Let me get to that video in a second, guys. Facial recognition firm claims Antifa infiltrated Trump protesters who stormed Capitol. So we have an allegation now that's starting to come out from more than one source that there may have been Antifa that infiltrated this event. And because there were so many people, they couldn't just come out in their regular clothes, right? They would have got overwhelmed, swarmed, and taken down real quick. So maybe they tried to do it this way. Trump supporters say that Antifa members disguised as one of them infiltrated the protesters who stormed the U.S. Capitol. A retired military officer told the Washington Times that the firm XR Vision used its software to do facial recognition of protesters and matched 2 Philadelphia Antifa members to 2 men inside the Senate. The source provided the photo match to the Times. One has a tattoo that indicates he's a Stalinist sympathizer. Many Antifa members promote anarchy through violence and want the end of America in favor of a Stalinist state. No more USA at all is a protest chant. XR Vision also has identified another man, while not known to have Antifa links, as someone who shows up at climate and Black Lives Matter protests. Born in Portland, Oregon, Antifa has mounted a year of violence in that city. So I guess we're going to have to wait and see how it plays out, right, guys? Did some Antifa members infiltrate the Trump supporters and become violent and try to force their way into the Capitol to make Trump's people look bad and violent? We don't know that yet. But what we do know is that there's allegations of it now. And facial recognition works pretty well, so, you know, are they trying to use this guy as a QAnon plant now, but he's really not QAnon? He's just some plant that they're using. Like, they've had this happen a couple different times. One of the guys happened in New York. He killed some mobster guy, I think, and then they said he was QAnon. So he supported QAnon. Here's some video from outside the Capitol. I wanted to play it. It's about people saying that somebody up here is trying to break the windows and somebody's trying to stop him, one of the Trump supporters, and they're claiming this person is Antifa. So let's play that video. They're trying to stop him. This guy's grabbing him right here and saying, "Stop breaking the windows. What are you doing?" This guy looks like he's yelling at him, "Don't break the windows. Stop what you're doing." So the question really is going to be, right, were there Antifa people inside this egging it on? Were they trying to act like they were Trump supporters, but they weren't, and then get up to the front, force their way inside, and do as much damage and violence inside there as they could? One, to break up the hearing, and then two, when the hearing would come back, the Democrats would have the moral outrage, right? How dare you do this? Look at what your supporters did. They trashed our sacred place, and this and that, right? And that was the whole thing that they kept pumping the whole rest of the thing time after they came back. Right? They were even going as far as to say that certain people were like traitors on the other side who were supporting the objection, which I found ridiculous. Trump supporters stop Antifa from breaking windows at Capitol. So here's another video, thing of the video, and you can see this person here is trying to breaking the window. But you see on the video that there are people trying to stop him. A second video taken from a closer position shows the Antifa thug again beating on the window with a baton, weakening the glass as Trump supporters loudly boo and call out "Antifa, Antifa." A Trump supporter wearing a red MAGA hat grabs the Antifa thug and forcibly shoves the thug away from the window as the crowd cheers. So I think at that point everything was so crazy that nobody really could realize it, but maybe that's what was happening, right? Violence by Antifa on the south side, where Trump supporters were told to march to. Supporters stopped the breakage, but he started again later. MSM keeps saying it's Trump supporters. It's not. Violence by Antifa on the south side, where Trump supporters were told to march to. Stop listening to MSM lies. I was there in D.C. Antifa started to break windows, but stopped by Trump supporters. Is that the same video? It looks like it, right? Yeah, this is the same vid we just watched. So that's some interesting vid. We see that there may have been some people, right? We don't know that. Now here's the other thing that happened, right? If you notice, they shut Trump's Twitter down, right, yesterday, and it's still down. And it's actually down longer than 12 hours. They said it was supposed to be at 12 hours. He hasn't tweeted in 17 hours. Now, the tweet that they took down was the tweet that I posted, which was the short speech, right, asking for calm, asking for people to go home, right? Twitter decided, it was one of these two tweets, that was a dangerous tweet. So he's asking people to go home, right? He's telling people to be peaceful. He's trying to calm the situation, as far as I could tell, right? But but wait a minute, Twitter took it down. So you've now made it so the president is unable to communicate, right? He's unable to tell the people to go back home because you've now locked his Twitter out for 12 months and for 12 hours, and you've locked his whole voice out, right? And then an article came out where they were saying that Instagram, reportedly set to join Twitter and Facebook, may suspend President Trump's account for 24 hours, right? So you saw this on the boards where they were talking about what would happen if all the communication goes down, right? And you started to see that, and also the web was super slow yesterday. I mean, slow. I was having all kinds of problems. And I tried to record the second part of the hearing, but it went on until 3:40 a.m. and I was about 4 hours in, and I just gave up because they wore me out with all that crap that they were talking, and it was and I think that's the purpose of the whole thing, right? They tried to do the objection, but what also happened is Loeffler and a lot of people who had said that they were going to support the objections to Pennsylvania and other states backed out because and their excuse was that the people had stormed the Capitol and their views had now changed on the situation because of that fact. So that's where I am with it. I'm not saying was everybody inside the Capitol Antifa. No, I'm not saying that. Some people were Trump supporters who were upset, right? But my point is, who did the violence, right? And who broke up stuff, and how did this poor woman get shot and killed? Because I've read that 4 people were actually killed, and I can't verify that yet. I can't verify that one young lady who's passed away, and she was in the United States Air Force vet, 14 years. So the question's going to be, why did someone shoot this woman inside the Capitol building, and who was really inside there, right? How many people were arrested, if any? It didn't appear a lot of people got arrested. And my other question is going to be, did the mayor of D.C. contribute to this in some way? Did she not put enough? Because you have National Guard troops there. My question is, why weren't there National Guard troops all over the Capitol steps and police to defend that area? Why were these people allowed to walk right up to go right up the stairs without much of a police presence there to stop them from going up those stairs, right? So was this situation, in a sense, brought on partially by her actions? And we'll have to see how that all plays out. But I think that she led to some of this happening by inadequately providing security for that building, because maybe they wanted people in that building, right? Maybe they wanted the whole thing to get shut down so that they could come back with the moral outrage and switch some of those people who are going to object to some of these things, and they may not have had the votes, and now they object. Now their objections have been, taken away because of the incident. So, again, guys, it's a fluid situation. We don't know how it's all playing out yet, but they did end up certifying the election for Biden, which I assumed that they would. And it looks like now, where are we going now, right? Are we going towards some kind of military tribunals? Are we going towards... Is Trump going to actually allow Biden to step in? I find that hard to believe, but it looks like that Trump is step by step going down the list of the things he could do, and then when it gets to the point where we kind of are at now, where you've almost exhausted almost every avenue of that you can explore to try to find the votes, and if you have states where they are unwilling or unable for some reason because they may be controlled to look at their vote the proper way, right? The court system itself has let us down. You would have thought that if with all those cases that one judge might have seen some evidence there that was, compelling, right? And there seems to be a lot of evidence, right? I've looked at a lot of the evidence. I've listen to people talking about the evidence, I'm convinced that the election was tainted way beyond more than it's ever been that I've seen, probably. Um, so it's a question of we're in this two world scenario, right, where the one side doesn't think anything went wrong and they're lying and the press is protecting them, and we have this other side where you don't have much people on Trump's team anymore trying to find the truth of the situation. And that's what I'm trying to do, right? I'm trying to find the real truth. And it's hard to do that when you have a mainstream press that is hell-bent on making sure that truth doesn't come out. But my guess is, my gut tells me that this woman is involved, that there was inadequate security for that building, and that, yeah, the only way that they could do that and cause any problem at Antifa would be they'd have to mix in with the Trump supporters and try to make it look as violent as possible and try to do violence. And the question is, who is this Horn guy, right? Is he some kind of a plant? Does he, follow the money, right? These people have to be financed by somebody. They can't be flying all over the country for free. They don't look like they have a lot of money, right? So find out their money, follow their money, and see who's financing them, if they are in fact Antifa or not. The facial recognition, we'll have to see. Did it pick up other people's faces, or maybe some people didn't have masks on? I'm pretty much sure that some of those people inside the Capitol building were not Trump supporters, and that some of them were there to do violence and to destroy as much as possible to make Trump's people look bad, because I had remembered that was one of the things that they were talking about Antifa might try to do at some point, especially if the numbers started to switch, right? Because at first, when the Trump rallies were happening, they weren't nearly as big, right? And they could show up and beat up a bunch of people. But as Trump's rallies grew in size, that became harder to do, and then they had to turn to maybe another way to try to stop it, right? That's my take on it, guys. So we'll see how things play out from here. I will follow the news. I'm not done. The story's not over yet. And here's one more video, shows protesters overwhelming police pushing down barrier in front of U.S. Capitol. So if you can see right here, right, there's not a ton of cops here. Right, there's just a barrier. There doesn't seem to be. There's no backup, right? Where's like National Guard? Where's cops? You should have levels of cops from lines of cops, and then have those guys buttressed off with other troops and stuff. If you're guarding the Capitol building, I'd say, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. A video taken by Blaze TV reporter Elijah Schaefer shows protesters overwhelming Capitol Police, pushing down a barrier. Ahead of a mob storming the building, the chaotic scene unfolded Wednesday. Rough language. In the clip, someone can be heard yelling from a speaker, "Let's go, F this, S. We pay your bills, you back to F off," as the crowd wearing MAGA hats and carrying Trump 2020 flags approach a line of officers standing behind a fence marked with an area closed sign. "Move," the man with the speaker says. "This is our house, we pay your bills." People in the front of the crowd then start shaking the fence, with several shouting "Move" and chanting USA. So, we'll have to see how this all plays out. These are the things and events that happen when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots who have been badly and unfairly treated for so long. Go home with love and in peace. Remember this day. Here's the other thing I was thinking about. Why did Trump, people kept saying, why did Trump tell these people to show up, right? Why did Trump tell his supporters to show up? Well, what if the plan was, right, that Antifa was going to show up in numbers and they were going to surround the White House and try to go inside, right? That was what I heard was a possibility. So if that's true, and we don't know that it is, how do you deal with 100 people that breach the fence at the same time, right? You only have so many snipers on the roof to deal with it. You only have so many cops. Was that the plan, to get into the White House and try to remove Trump that way? We don't know that yet, but that would be the only reason I would think that he would do that. So to bring all those people down is a security measure in a sense. Now you see that let's just assume for a second that that's what Trump did, and he had the people come as a protection measure for himself and for the government. Well, those people, somebody still got in the Capitol building, right? So my point is, was the idea to storm the Capitol building all along as Antifa and go in? And did Trump's people being there, in a sense, stop that from going further than it would have gone, and I don't know that. But that was one of my takes on it, was that might have been the case. In other words, yeah, it looked bad, but the reality was that if that that poor woman got shot, and that should have never happened, but who did that? It was a cop inside, right? Or somebody that got scared or had an accidental discharge. So the point is that it did get bad, but they were able to go resume the hearing, and there wasn't any further damage. People weren't taken like hostage or hurt. No senator that I saw was attacked or something like that, right? So the question's going to be, is just that, right? Were there Antifa people inside or not? We don't know that yet. We got to wait and see. But my guess is there were. Because Trump's people haven't been violent. They never wanted to go in, and maybe they were that night, right? Maybe there were some angry people. I get it. And you have a right to be angry as you're watching your process get stripped away. And I'll tell you something, guys. I watched those hearings for hours yesterday, and the more I watched it, the angrier I got, because I realized that neither side of these people are interested, some of them, in protecting the law. I mean, go watch what Lindsey Graham said yesterday. He said, I'm done. I'm done. You go watch it. It's hours of bullshit, but I couldn't sit through it no more. And I noticed Right Side Broadcasting even stopped reporting at one point, and both of those reporters came on and they said it's over, basically. They didn't even want to report it anymore. I had to watch the rest of it on C-SPAN. So with that, friends, I wish you peace and love. We'll keep our eyes on what's going down the next 2 weeks. We'll see what information drops out. And, it ain't over till the heavy lady sings, right? So with that, friends, I wish you peace and love. Have a good day. This is Ash, WAT News, signing off for now.